Hello, this is Dustin from Team Scrumptious, and today, well, I'm briefly going to go over where we have gotten so far in Sprint 1 for Deliverable 5. As you can see on the screen, we are in the Professor account. What I've actually done before going into our objects that we've created is I've created profiles so that, and I created a user called Professor, which that user is only able to access those objects in our Salesforce system that pertain to our attendance management system. As you'll see, none of the Salesforce applications are present in the app menu. That being said, I'll go ahead and dive into our objects that we've created. Obviously, the user interface right now is something that has become a very unpredictable obstacle during this project. Actually developing a good user interface, anything further than point and click, which is point and click, is really only going to get us about as far as we see here. There's not really much else we can do with point and click, except for set everything up in order to actually create a user interface. I've spent 4 to 5 hours today looking into all this. But really, the only way to create a good user interface is to code and using the Apex language, which is Salesforce's programming language, and in conjunction with Visualforce, which is just another tool, an app feature that Salesforce provides. So that's going to be a huge obstacle because we don't really have a whole lot of time to learn Apex. But that being said, I'd like to demo everything. As you can see here, we have classes, don't mind reports, don't mind home, files, reports. Those three are just kind of standard tabs that I wanted to keep on here for future reference. But really the objects that we've created, the custom objects within Salesforce are classes, students, professors, enrollments, and attendance. And I'd like to briefly discuss those by simply looking at our domain class diagram that we've created, and that domain class diagram kind of depicts everything. As you can see here, um, we have a student, really, and I want to discuss the relationships here. A professor can be a professor of many classes. However, a class can only have one professor. Likewise, one class can have many students, and one student can belong to many classes, and therefore because there's a many-to-many relationship between student and class, we've created an associative entity called enrollment, and that basically captures individual records of students being enrolled. And finally, each enrollment can have many attendances. However, one attendance record can belong to only one enrollment or only one student in each class. And that's really what the diagram shows here. Now the diagram makes sense, but another obstacle that we're running into is how do we really project all of that information, so to speak? How do we connect all that and create a lot of the functionality that are in the acceptance requirements? So what I mean by that is, for example, using, again, just strictly using the point and click functionality, we're able to, go in here, and as you can see, I've filled this all with populated sample data, and I use that using Salesforce's data import wizard, which allows you to import data. So I've imported all this data, and really these are not all of the fields here for the classes. If we wanted to see all the fields, we can go here and click New Class, which that meets a check for one of the acceptance requirements. And here you can see, okay, we're going to create a new class. We'll call this class Java Programming Business. CRN, we'll just make something up. Subject, I created some subjects, management information systems, professor, we can go here and that's linked to professors. So we will go and select a professor from the existing professor records. Now again, this is the systems administrator functionality here. Any one professor will not be able to go and select and create classes on behalf of other professors. But creating that functionality is out of the scope of this. You can select the days that the class is provided on: Monday, Wednesday, and let's say Friday. And the hour, and PM. These three fields, hour, minute, and AM and PM, those three fields I actually pulled from the way that it's formatted in Bulletin on UGA. So herein lies the data validation thing that I want to emphasize. Here, where one of the requirements was a class cannot be created if it already exists, and the way that I implemented that was the CRN. So if we enter a CRN for Java Programming and Business, and that CRN already exists in the system, that class will not be able to be created. But we're going to go ahead and save this class. And so that class has been saved. We'll get a confirmation of that. And here we can view all the information. Um, as you can see at the bottom, I've added related lists, enrollments, and attendance. This is yet another obstacle that we're encountering by using point and click. Again, without programming any of this, it's very difficult for us to create an attendance list, for example, where we go in and check students' attendance. We can do attendance records one by one, but in order to actually view all of that information, we're going to have to use a lot of SQL and a lot of programming using Apex and Visual Force. Needless to say, here we have Java Programming and Business. I want to show a sample of a class that already has enrolled students. So if we go to Java Programming and Business, one of our previous ones, I think this is the right one, yes. So if we go in here, we can see that this class has 3 enrolled students, and I have it set up here so that it shows the first name, last name, email, and cell phone of that student. And I haven't taken attendance, so to speak, for this class yet, so there's no attendance records. But all of this is, basically captured on one page here for each class. We have the class details, the date and time for the class, the enrolled students for that class, and then of course attendance records. Okay, so going to students, I want to walk through the process where if a professor creates a class, so we just created a class, now let's try to assign a student to that class. Well, in order to do that, we have 2 options. We can click on students, and we can either click new, or we can go here and do import data, so we can import a lot of students at one time. Now that being said, one of the difficulties that we're currently having is when we create a new student, it doesn't automatically add them to a class. And what I mean by that is first, because there's an associative relationship between students and classes, we also have to take a second step and enroll that student in a class. So first, we create a student, which I'll do now. And so we'll just enter their name, and then once we save this student, it doesn't add them to a class. It basically just deposits them into the student records list. And so now we see, okay, they're not enrolled in anything. So we can go ahead and enroll them in a class now that the student has been created. So we'll click New Enrollment, and it's already got the student's name there, and we're just going to select the class to enroll that student in. Obviously, there's a lot of inefficiencies here, and the only way to reduce those inefficiencies is to use code, because the point and click functionalities, based upon the research that I've done, doesn't really allow for a lot of these inefficiencies to be accomplished. Okay, so now we can see that that student has been enrolled in Java Programming and Business, and just to confirm, we can click through on that class, and we see that the enrollment ID is 6. We can scroll down, and yes, we can see that indeed Dustin Ellis has been enrolled in Java Programming and Business. So that's really kind of the process right now. I do want to take a moment and show you the mobile application that comes with this. Basically, this is a plugin that it really has a better user interface. It's the exact same data, but it's on Salesforce One, which is Salesforce's mobile application interface. And so if you download Salesforce One on your mobile device, you're able to view your Salesforce applications from a mobile interface. So here we see the same exact information. I can click on classes and I can click on all. Obviously, I haven't created any filters for these classes yet, but here we have all of our classes. We can scroll down and we can view all of these classes here. Let's click on Java Programming and Business. It will show us all of the data related to that class. So a feed is just that's a list of recent updates within this class. Details, this is the class details page. You can see we have the name, CRN, blah, blah, date and time here. If we want to view a list of the students, as you can see, we just click on enrollments, and that clicks us through to the enrolled students. Again, this is pretty inefficient. This is a lot of clicking around. The user interface is not good at all, and it's going to be very difficult for us to really fix all of this using point and click, if not impossible. We're going to have to put a lot of time into learning how to program using Apex and Visual Force, because that's how a lot of those applications are created. Here in the menu, we have all of our objects here as well. So students, professors, some of these are just standard objects. But adding professors, for example, some of the functionality is nice. We can go in here and we can view professor information and show more. We can edit this professor if we really wanted to, and then save it. So overall, the application itself is the obstacle that we're finding right now is that the application, the domain entities was easy to populate into Salesforce. We went to the schema and we were able to build, as I just showed you, we were able to build this schema that logically makes sense, but actually conveying all of the information in a good user interface is not easily accomplished using point and click. So there's really not a lot of, I know a lot of people say Salesforce is a pretty user-friendly platform, and it is, but the point and click functionality does not really accomplish the objectives that we're trying to accomplish here. And the only real way that I can see to accomplish these objectives is to learn how to program in Apex, which is going to be tough to do in just a matter of a couple weeks. So here, I've gone through all of these menus, and I've really spent a good bit of time looking through documentation provided by Salesforce, and I took a course on Visual Force on Udemy, Lynda, and it's pretty complex. So that's really where we're at with our application. We do have all of the Sprint requirements done in terms of the domain entities, adding, updating, and deleting the professors, the students, as you can see here, enrolling students into courses, and then of course taking attendance one by one in a very manual process. So things that we will be looking into are trying to figure out how to streamline all of this, and whether that be one of the things, for example, that I was looking into was, is there a way to put a button on a specific course's page that says take attendance? And you would think that with a point and click system that would be a very easy thing to do. However, there's just not a function that I can find to do that. So for example, down here, when we go to see our enrollments, we see attendance, I'd really like to go to edit layout and have the option to just drop a button down there that brings me to a page that has a full roster of students where I can click whether or not they were in attendance or not. And then when I submit that, it creates all of the records in the attendance domain, or the attendance object. So as you can see here under buttons though, there's really just not a lot of options. So quick action, same thing. All of this just just things that we'll be looking into. But that's really a summary of our application at this point. We'll be looking into everything later on. Thanks.